Welcome. It is time for another episode of Constitution Study Television. I am Douglas V. Gibbs, your host. The Founding Fathers, when they created this system under the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all of that, they grew up in this system. They grew up in understanding what freedom was about because they were Englishmen. They considered themselves freemen under the English system. And, the whole point of the American Revolution was that they were appealing to the king as freemen, saying, hey, we're freemen in liberty, just as those in Mother England, we should be treated the same. And the response was that they received virtual representation. Now, in the Declaration of Independence, they spell it out quite a bit what they believed. And let me read from the Declaration something for you. All right. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. And then further down, it says, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. So we have to ask ourselves, why did they believe that? Why did the Founding Fathers believe that they had this system of liberty and that they were free to do, what they were doing? Well, they were Englishmen. They had come from the Saxon system, and Britain had developed much differently than mainland Europe. The Saxons created a strong strain of individualism based on land ownership that was to play a persistent part in the politics of England. This was quite different than mainland rulers who used a heavy hand to control their subjects. The Anglo-Saxons developed a lighter touch, consent of the people, not just the majority. Natural laws given by divine dispensation. Power never allowed to concentrate in any one person or group. Primary responsibility for resolving problems rested, first of all, with the individual. The groups were organized into small, manageable groups. Rights of the individual were considered unalienable and could not be violated without risking the wrath of divine justice as well as civil retribution by the people's judges. Justice was structured on the basis of severe punishment unless there was complete reparation to the person who had been wronged. Four crimes against the whole of society were considered to be against all of the society: treason, cowardice, desertion, and homosexuality. Localism, meaning local problems, were attempted to be solved at the level where the problem originated. All of these principles went into the founding of our country. Now, what I just read you, a large part of that came from Liberty Inherited by John L. Hancock. Now, they also studied Cicero, and I have a book here, matter of fact, called Cicero by Anthony Everett. And I want to read you something that was fascinating that I came across this. Cicero believed in the Roman Republic. The Roman Republic was also something that the Founding Fathers studied. While the Saxon system was very influential on them, and they already had all of this, what they knew of system of liberty, they confirmed what they believed through other writings and research. When it came to Cicero, as the Roman Republic was becoming an empire, and Cicero was fighting to save the Republic, this is what was going on. There had been a decline in moral standards and a corruption of old habits of responsibility in public life. All would be well if they were to return to traditional values. Rediscovery of the ideal statesman and citizen. The Constitution itself, properly interpreted, was perfect. So the problems they were having was that in their society, virtue was being lost. They were losing their moral center, their moral compass. Well, the Founding Fathers recognized that it was important for them to be a virtuous people. If you look at the pane on the right, I have a bunch of quotes by the different Founding Fathers regarding what was important in the sense of being a virtuous society. And in fact, Benjamin Franklin said, only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. But as they were doing their research, when it came to the Saxons and the Bible and Montesquieu is another one. Montesquieu is where they got the idea of separation of powers from. When we get to that, we'll talk more about Montesquieu. But they did all this research in history, and then they came to an interesting revelation. In the 4,000-year leap, it says this: as the founders studied the record of the ancient Israelites, they were intrigued by the fact that they also operated under a system of laws remarkably similar to those of the Anglo-Saxons. The two systems were similar both in precept and operational structure. In fact, the Reverend Thomas Hooker wrote the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut based on the principles recorded by Moses in the first chapter of Deuteronomy. These fundamental orders were adopted in 1639 and constituted the first written constitution of modern times. Now, to put it all into brass tacks, this is what's going on here. The Founding Fathers were raised in a system based on Saxon influence. Innocent until proven guilty, a system of representation, no one's above the law, including the king, so on and so forth. They also have the exact same principles biblically offered to them. They're also looking at other systems in history. The Roman Republic, Slovenia, Sweden back in 1500s before they lost their republic and then wound up eventually collapsing. They did all of this research. And what they found was that tyranny emerges from two things: a lack of virtue and from population centers. So their goal was to do what they could to make sure this was a virtuous country based on Judeo-Christian values and a system that protects the voice of the minority. In other words, since the tyranny always rose up from population centers where the mob rule collected, they made sure it was not a pure democracy, that our country is a republic that is designed to protect the voices of the smaller populated areas. Problem is, we've stopped being a republic. We've gone from a constitutional republic to a liberal democracy. That's one of the reasons why we're having so many problems. I'll get more into what a republic is in future videos. But anyway, so this is a basic idea of what was happening prior. The thinking, the research, all that they understood. In the next video, we'll start breaking into the Constitution and really start breaking down the language. So, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And you can also go to patreon.com/Douglas V. Gibbs. I do have a Patreon account, so if you want to help fund my efforts, you could become a patron at Patreon, or you could go to douglasvgibbs.com and hit the donate there, and you can also donate to my cause. Also, share this video as much as you can. We are going to work our way through the entire Constitution, and I am excited that you want to spend the journey with me. We'll see you on the next video. Thank you.